David Bowie is a man of many arts. In addition to being a musical chameleon, creating hit singles in almost every decade of his career, he was also an actor in both movies and on stage. His fictional stage characters have spread fear, joy, ecstasy, and confusion amongst audiences, leading him to become one of the most polarizing figures in music history. But what exactly made David Bowie's characters so captivating? Let's take a closer look.
I felt often, ever since I was a teenager, so adrift and so not part of everyone else, with so many dark secrets about my family in the cupboard. It kind of made me feel very much on the outside of everything.
In interviews, Bowie sometimes mentioned how he always felt different compared to other people. His family was ridden by mental disorders such as schizophrenia. Some members even went as far as committing suicide. This more than enough explains why he felt a sense of isolation and depression from a very early age. But despite of these feelings, and also the lack of success during his initial decade as a musician, he still kept on improving and changing his style. It was from these feelings of isolation and depression, and also through his act of perseverance, that David Bowie invented his first character, Major Tom.
This is ground control to Major Tom.
The story of Major Tom is very simple. He's an astronaut setting out on a dangerous journey into space. The story ends tragically, with Tom being stranded in his spaceship a million miles from home. And my theory is that Bowie felt something similar about his own journey through music. His 1969 released song, Space Oddity, was either gonna succeed marvelously or fail miserably. And luckily enough, it was a huge success.
David, the record which you have in charts in Britain at the moment is undoubtedly your biggest success to date, isn't it?
My only success to date.
Well, I wouldn't have said that.
The character of Major Tom also made a second appearance on a song called Ashes to Ashes that he released in 1980. This song also reflects another deep-seated issue in Bowie's life. For a long time, he had suffered from drug addiction, and it seemed like it was much easier for Bowie to talk about his issue through the voice of Major Tom.
Ashes to ashes, funk to funky, we know Major Tom's a junkie.
This character didn't only make it easier for Bowie to express his emotions, it also allowed him to expand the medium of music. The song Space Oddity, for example, told a cohesive story that a lot of people could relate to. We might never set out on a frightening journey to space, but maybe a frightening journey to another country, to the first day of school, or a job interview. Shortly explained, it's a song about facing fear. And because of that, the music became more visual and real. Later on, Bowie became even more extravagant and prolific in his character development. I'm sure you probably know what I'm talking about here. In 1972, what was to become Bowie's most influential character came to life. And that character was, of course, Ziggy Stardust. The first thing that made Ziggy such an appealing character was the fact that he was different. Very few people until that point had used fictional characters and role-playing during performances. Much of the music was made and performed in a very linear, two-dimensional fashion. You can even look at some of the most contemporary rock bands and artists during the early 1970s and immediately see the difference. Of course, these bands were amazing live as well, but with Ziggy Stardust, you suddenly had this pale, thin, cross-dressing alien that was different from everything else. Many people in the audience were shocked because it was way beyond comprehension at that time. But it wasn't just his appearance that made people outrageous. A couple of months earlier, he had openly stated in the press that he was gay. Remember, this was still the early 70s, so there was a lot of taboo around gays' rights and their social status.
Now, Ziggy wasn't as original as a lot of people think he was.
Bowie personally mentioned how the character was directly inspired by artists like Vince Taylor, Iggy Pop, and Lou Reed.
I've always found that I collect. I'm a collector. And I've always just seemed to collect personalities.
It was the synthesis, the collection of these artists' personalities that made Ziggy greater than the sum of his parts. What's even more interesting about Ziggy is his story. In the album's plotline, humanity will end within 5 years because of the lack of natural resources. Ziggy Stardust is part alien, part human, and he becomes a rock star right after these tragic news are revealed. He also believes in a spaceman who will be coming down to save Earth from its destruction. But before any of this happens, he is killed by his fans. I know, it can be a lot to take in, but it's a really fascinating story, and I'll leave some links to a website down below that goes more in depth into the story if you want to learn more. This character became so influential that Bowie eventually ended up acting as Ziggy Stardust outside of shows, in interviews, and also during his private time.
I carried the character through into interviews, into newspapers, on stage, off stage, whenever there was media around.
The role became indistinguishable from his real personality to the degree that he came to doubt his own sanity. As a result, Bowie abruptly retired his character on July 3rd, 1973. Just like the song named after the character, Ziggy Stardust's fame came fast, but he ended just as quickly. There's a bunch of other characters as well that David Bowie has created and played over the years, in addition to Ziggy Stardust, such as the Thin White Duke, Aladdin Sane, Halloween Jack. He also played several roles in movies, but the reason why his role-playing worked so well, specifically with music, was because he had a talent for both. When his acting and music came together, it created something that impacted our culture for generations. When people pretend to be someone they're not, it can be interpreted as a way of hiding a specific weakness. But in Bowie's case, I think it further developed and showcased his strengths. By creating characters, David Bowie managed to channel his personality and communicate with his audience even more effortlessly. He expanded the art of music into a bigger medium by mixing it with theater and storytelling. And that's what made David Bowie such a captivating artist. That's why we'll keep making videos like this one about him many years after his death. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to watch similar videos in the future from this channel, then I highly suggest you click the first link in the description below. By doing that, I'll be able to send you my YouTube videos directly to you on Messenger. So if that sounds good, make sure to click that link below. And yep, that's it. Talk to you later. Bye bye.